So welcome everyone, it's nice to meet you. Merry Christmas, belated Christmas to those who haven't been here on 25th. So we are at the moment discussing the process stage after stage. We've so far covered the three preparations of the practice, which is the posture, it should be upright and relaxed, the breath, it should be deep and comfortable, the attitude, which is kind and compassionate. We went through the first stage, which is all about becoming comfortable in the body, allowing the body to settle, letting go of tension that exists in the body, in your muscles, in your tendons, in your bones, in your skin, everywhere. Letting go of that, becoming more rested, calm and settled. And that first stage that pulls you into the second one, which is present moment awareness. Present moment awareness, we let go of the burden of past and future thoughts. The mind sees no need to escape into the future or the past. Why? Because it's comfortable here and now. Every time you're comfortable in your life, every time you're experiencing something that's nice, that feels good, you are automatically present. Right? Many times that people do things because it gets them into that state. Get a good massage, or whatever it is that we do, have a good dinner. It's supposed to get us into that state where we do not need to think about the past or the future. We're simply here, present now. That is a great falling away of burden, suffering that falls away in that stage. If you go deeper into that, your presence becomes so acute, so clear, so powerful, that you enter the third stage, which is characterized by an absence of talking to yourself in your own head. So there's no verbalization, no voice, no commentary, no narrative, no words. So basically you're experiencing this moment as it is without any descriptions. There's no words, no labels. That's stage 3. Only when you're experiencing this stage for a certain amount of time, let's say for more than 20 seconds, so when your concentration is that stable that you can stay empty of words in this experience here and now for, let's say, 20 seconds or so, roughly, then you will notice, or begin to notice, what kind of suffering it is to keep talking to yourself the whole day long. You will not notice that if you never really escape the talking mind. Then the talking mind will feel very much second nature. It will feel very much like it is who I am. I am the voice in my head. And as that deepens, as you become more comfortable in silence, then you can slowly work on the next stage, which is stillness. So you are bringing the attention just to the breath. So the task at that stage is not to let the attention escape from the breath, to move elsewhere. There's a habit in your attention to move around all the time. It wants to go to the sounds, it wants to go to the knee pain, it wants to go to the back, it wants to go to whatever it is that's going on in that moment, but it doesn't want to stay with just one thing. It's very buzzy, it's quite scattered. It has this erratic quality to it. And of course, we would never normally see that as suffering. But it is. And you will only see it as suffering when you experience the absence of it. Like you never really experience the comfort of your mattress unless someone would go into your room and take it away from you. Then you would suddenly be aware of how comfortable it has been having a mattress. But you only notice that when it's gone. Goes the same way, the other way around, right? So you only recognize something as suffering when you notice that the absence of it is blissful. Like the fridge that runs the whole night in your room and buzzes
and suddenly there is a blackout or something like this, and the fridge stops. Only then do you notice how sweet the silence is, when the sound of the fridge is suddenly stopped. Oh, that's quite nice. Until that moment, you did not notice that there even was such a thing as the sound of the fridge. Okay? Suffering is like that. At that level, you would only recognize that movement in the mind is suffering because you've experienced stillness for long enough to make an impact, to make an impression. Okay? So that's the fourth stage. Now, we are working on the fourth stage to deepen that fourth stage. And what we are discussing right now is several tools. So I'm going through a certain toolbox right now, things that help you to go deeper into that process. So this Tuesday, we've discussed the tool of kindness, or metta. And today, we're discussing the tool of compassion, also known as Karuna. So what is compassion? Well, simply put, compassion is the wish for someone not to suffer. So it might be yourself. I remember one day when I was just walking up to my teacher's room in the monastery, and he was just walking up in front of me on the stairs, and he just out of the blue turned around and said, "Tobi, what's the cause of compassion?" And I was just taken by surprise. It was like, whoa, that was like a weird moment to ask that question. And so I thought a little bit, and I didn't really know what to say in that moment. I don't even remember, I think, right now what I answered. I think I said something like learning about compassion or something like that. What's the cause of compassion to arise? And that my answer was like learning about compassion. You have to know about compassion before you even consider it, right? That was my logic at that moment. And he said, no. It is the understanding, the comprehension of suffering that gives rise to compassion. If we do not understand suffering, we are not in the position to be compassionate. Then very often the apparent compassion that we have is just mostly only pity. So we look down on someone that suffers down there, oh, poor you, something like that. That looks very nice, it looks like compassion, it looks like you care, but it's nothing but a feeling of being superior in that moment and kind of relishing in that feeling a little bit, just enjoying the fact that you're not that poor guy. This is the downside of pity. But it is close to compassion. That's why pity is called the near enemy of compassion. It's almost like compassion. It's so similar that it's easy to fall for it, to go the pity route rather than the compassion route. So as my teacher said, the moment the proper cause of compassion to arise is a thorough understanding of suffering. Now, we don't really understand what suffering is, so it makes sense to really understand it. In order to really understand it, you have to experience it. And this is what the Buddha encourages us. He encourages us to actually look at the experience of suffering when all we want is avoid it. Okay? So most of us are constantly busy trying to avoid suffering. We don't want to feel it, we don't want to experience it. So immediately if some discomfort arises, you go into avoidance mode. You're trying to get rid of it somehow. What can I do to get out of this? The body wiggles around, you try to somehow wiggle your way out of it. That's immediately what happens if you're confronted with discomfort. This is very natural and normal. We all experience that. There's nothing wrong. Also, the Buddha did not encourage you to chase suffering. Many people think, okay, now I'm supposed to understand suffering, so let's produce it and let's chase it. That's also not the way. It's not the way to run after suffering and try to find it Suffering will find you. It finds you, in fact, in any given minute, in various ways. It has its ways to penetrate through and get into your being. It's a bit of irritation in the body, mosquitoes around you, noise when you don't need it, whatever it is. But something gets to you. And there's very subtle undercurrents of suffering, things that we never would notice if our mind was not, in a way, refined enough to see. So we need to start where we are. So what's the first kind of suffering that comes to mind? It's the very coarse suffering in the body. Just very coarse levels of tension, like your shoulders being up at your ear level or something like this. And you suddenly notice, oh, holding my shoulders up here, I don't need to. And now that's nice. So the falling away of the suffering of tension in your shoulders is what? Nice. And you did not notice it before that. Yes, the shoulders were up there as a natural physical habit. So it's important to notice also that the path is counterintuitive. It is not intuitive. The intuition of your body here is to keep the shoulders up. It is counterintuitive to do this. It comes easy to be tense. It is hard to relax. Because as soon as you relax, you forget again, whoop, the shoulders go right up again. The same happens with every other part in your body, basically. It likes to be tense. Almost as if the body would be guarding itself against some looming danger. It's always kind of ready, isn't it? It's always in this fight or flight mode, constantly. That is a result of mental stress playing out in our bodies. It's very basic stuff. The mind is wired. Why is it wired? Because it's constantly thinking about the future and the past. So it can't possibly relax. Because there's so much future that could go wrong, and there's so much past which has gone wrong. And so the mind desperately tries to find ways to avoid things going wrong, creating a whole lot of tension, and that tension reflects it where? In your emotional body. And what does that do to your body? It actually affects your physical body in a very real way. And this is not just some fancy spiritual thing, but this is hard science. It's been proven that the way your mind behaves has a direct impact on all the physical systems, whether it be the nervous system, endocrine system, or the cardiovascular system, you name it, musculoskeletal system, everything. It has an impact on everything. Your mind uses your body as a musical instrument to play its song. And if the song of your mind is death metal, your body will reflect that. And if the song of your mind is, I don't know, a nice meditation music or something, then that your body will reflect that too. So this shows you that this entire path is about what you do. What are you doing right now? What are you doing in your mind right now that causes you tension? Seeing that now, that's experiencing suffering. What am I doing right now, in this very second, to cause myself misery? Yeah, okay, start with the most obvious. Holding my shoulders up. Clenching my fists. Biting my teeth. Having tension in the jaws. Maybe tension in the tongue. Maybe tension between your eyes. Maybe your eyelids are tense. What about your ears? Are they tense? Got to pay attention to find out, right? You need to look to find out. How's the body doing? Is it tense? And now here's where compassion comes in. On a very rudimentary level, compassion on stage 1 of the path is all about finding where you are hurting your body by not paying attention. And as you pay attention, you notice, oh, I have a choice. I can relax. Do you experience what I'm saying right now as empowering? Yes, because it is. It is exactly that. It is your power to choose to relax. In your body. I'm not even talking about fancy mental stuff. Just the body. So now you have an option. You can put that power to work throughout your entire day. Standing in a queue, sitting in your car, waiting for the traffic light to turn green. Relax the body. Let go of tension. Do yourself a favor. Care for yourself. See, that's compassionate, self-compassion. You see, oh, I suffer. I don't have to suffer like that. I can also choose to relax right now. I'm not telling you have to relax for the next 6 months, 24 hours every day, but right now. It's enough to do that. That's the path. Every time when you choose relaxation in the body over tension, and you find ingenious ways to relax the body, you're doing yourself a favor. You're counteracting stress in a very real way. If more people would be doing just this first stage with consistency day in and day out, there'd be far less stress in this world. Consider the build-up of seeing something unpleasant. Like somebody insulting your friend. And you see that, what happens? Immediately your mind becomes tense, which is immediately reflected in your emotion and then immediately in your body. Your heartbeat, your nervous system, the way you feel, the way your body tenses up, getting ready to fight, getting ready to maybe even sometimes shaking for people. When they're confronted with a dangerous situation, start to shake. All the adrenaline that is released, all the cortisol that is released in that moment, it makes you very uncomfortable. In that very moment, to narrow it down, you're making yourself sick. And if you're aware of that, then you notice, wow, what am I doing here? What am I doing to myself? Do I have to do that? Does it help? No, right? It doesn't help your friend. It doesn't help you. It doesn't help anyone. It's just like seeing someone drown and you can't swim and you hop into the water to help them. You're going to drown too. It's 2 people drowning now. Or you put it in other words, you have just raised the overall percentage of anxiety that exists in this world. You've just raised the bar. There's more anxiety in the world now. Now, anxiety also acts through you. That's one person more anxious. Anxiety has more power now. The overall picture. But you could also choose right now to notice that and to let go of hurting yourself first. Because your pain is not the solution to someone else's pain, ever. It is your release of pain which is the solution, beginning in your body, then finding expression in conversations and interactions with other people, naturally. That's just the first stage. What's the second stage? Now, as soon as you become really comfortable in your body, you've let go of most of the coarse tension in your body, you'll notice the second level of tension, the second layer of suffering becomes a bit more obvious. You notice how the mind moves back and forth between future and past. Think about what's next, think about what just happened, getting stuck, etc. and you consider, is this suffering? Now we have to have some faith. I tell you, yes, it is suffering. You might have no experience of the opposite. So you need to go by faith. I say, okay, now bring your attention fully into the present moment and stay there for long enough. What happens when you're not thinking about past and future? And let me help you, because you know the experience already from your own life. Well, when was the last time that you really enjoyed doing something, like sports or dancing or something like that? You remember? Any pleasant activity, something nice. And if it's just getting like your head scratched by these nice head scratch things, feels wonderful, right? Now when you get something like that, do you think about your problems in the future and the problems in the past and your guilt and your shame and what you messed up with and whatnot? No, you're just going, that's so nice. Right? You forget your problems. That is what we experience as nice. It's, by the way, the very reason why we like to listen to talks such as these or watch a movie. It puts us into that state. For the duration of the movie, you forget your own future and past. It's nice. It's relaxing. It's what we consider to be relaxing. For just a little time, I don't have to worry about my own weight that I carry around with myself. That's why we like to listen about other people, stories about other people, and how they act and how they mess up things. And so in that moment, I don't have to be with my own problems. I don't have to look at my future and my past. It's nice for that moment. It's all we're looking for is this pleasure of presence. It's very humble pleasure, but once you're experiencing it consciously, it's pretty powerful stuff. And again, you can only experience that as a result of falling away of the suffering of future and past thoughts. And only then can you develop compassion. You notice, wow, I'm making myself suffer right here. I'm thinking about my future, I'm thinking about my past in unskillful ways, in bad ways, in harmful ways. I might as well stop that, save myself some time and give myself back some health. And let go and relax, here and now. I wouldn't have to wire myself up mentally. There's no need for that, because I don't know the future. It's unknown. It doesn't matter how hard I think about it, it still remains unknown. It's a surprise box. Nobody knows their future. And all the thoughts in the world doesn't make it known. It's pointless. Why is it that we have such a hard time to allow ourselves to be a bit more surprised by life? Let life surprise you a little bit. Let it show you what it has in store for you in the present moment. And as you see that, you can react adequately to what's going on because you're not occupied with a different image in your mind. You can then react to the way it is, appropriately. So it gives you a better range of action, better range of possibility, because we're not clogged up by future thoughts or past thoughts. But if you can dwell in this absence of future and past more and more, you pay attention to what's happening right now, because that's what matters, that's what's important. Well then, you save yourself a whole lot of trouble. That's compassionate. Then you do the same in the third stage. You save yourself the trouble of talking to yourself. But before you can let go of talking to yourself, consider this. Can you at least talk to yourself in a better way? Are there ways in which you could talk to yourself that are a bit more constructive, a bit more skillful, a bit more helpful, a bit more kind? Are there? Could you talk to yourself nicely? Or is there a guy with a gun behind your head telling you, if you have any one nice thought about yourself, I'm going to blow your brains out? No, right? There's no such pressure. You are free to have nice thoughts about yourself. What keeps you? Given the fact that we enjoy hearing these things from others, right? If someone comes to you today and says, Al, you look fantastic today. You smile, you see? So easy to make people smile. It's a bit of a happiness expressing itself in your body. It's a simple thing, isn't it? It immediately lifts your spirit. If you can do that to yourself now, that's kindness. You can do something internally that helps you to go, nice. Actually, I'm quite happy. Well, actually, life is quite okay. Well, actually, I'm quite grateful that, whatever, you know. You could do that. The question is, would you? Would you do that? Would you be kind to yourself? Would you say a few nice things to yourself? Would you actually give yourself a pep talk sometimes, helping yourself to get up when you're down? How do you motivate yourself? Most people are very good at criticizing themselves, disparaging themselves, giving themselves a heck of a hard time, just by the way of how they think. Just how they think. It doesn't require any outside person to give them a hard time. It's enough for them to just be alone in a room and they have a hard time. To give themselves that hard time. When was the last time you acknowledged that you're doing well? When was the last time that you saw that you were doing something well? And took some time to actually enjoy that. It's important. You need that. And it is the suffering that negative self-talk causes you, which allows you to be compassionate enough to abandon it, to drop it. See, I'm harming myself, I'm hurting myself all day long. What for? Why not drop it? Why give myself such a hard time? It hurts. I wish I wouldn't hurt myself like that. And so you can abandon it. That is compassion. And why does it arise again? What's its cause? Seeing the pain in it clearly. You're not avoiding it. You see it clearly. You need to see it while you're doing it. Life in action. You got to catch the thief when it's in your house, not when it's already gone with all your stuff. You got to see what you're doing to yourself while you're doing it. That's powerful. And then consider, how would it be even without any thought? On the train ride to work in the morning, could I just be there? What if I wouldn't be talking to myself the whole train ride long? How would that be like? How would I feel? Consider that. Motivate yourself, because you can do these things. You can achieve them. You can be completely at ease with yourself here and now. It's your power. I just recently heard a wonderful talk by Thanissaro Bhikkhu, who said very nicely that the Buddha respects us enough. The Buddha respects our potential enough to give us these instructions. It is a sign of respect from the Buddha's side. He could have also said like, oh, these guys lack the intelligence to do these things, but he did not. He gave these instructions, even though they are not easy to implement and not easy to realize, but he nonetheless gave them because he believed in your power to lift yourselves up. Because you can. You can make good decisions, you can make good moves internally. You can help yourself, you can heal yourself, you can benefit yourself. It's all this is the result of compassion. It's your power. You have that power right now. When we come to the fourth stage, you recognize that movement in the mind, movement of attention, is suffering. It is stressful. And you would only really notice that when you know the opposite, stillness. You've stayed with your breath quietly for long enough so the mind really settles in and becomes super comfortable with the breath. And the whole body opens up like a nice lotus flower opens up in the sunlight or something. It loves that bliss. It loves this stillness in the mind. Everything opens up in it. The mind heals, your emotions heal, your body heals. All it takes is that sweet, nice stillness when the mind just doesn't vibrate that much anymore. Then you realize, wow, the other state I was in before the meditation, that is suffering. So you will then, with growing of compassion, you'll then grow your motivation to sit down and actually do the meditation practice. Many people don't consider these things. They read about meditation, the 10 benefits of meditation practice. They read it in a blog, and then they think, I've got to meditate. I need to integrate that into my daily life. But how can you? Because you don't even feel that you're suffering yet. And that's the whole purpose of meditation, to actually make you aware of the fact how you suffer and how you make yourself suffer. Suffering is what you do right now to yourself. It's not what happens to you. It's what you do. If you realize that, you simultaneously realize the power that lies in your hands. You could do differently. You could do skillfully and nicely, in kind ways. You could do compassionately, helping yourself to get out of suffering. So that's all that comes to mind concerning compassion tonight. There's surely more to be said about compassion, but this is the way it pertains to the practice that we're doing here, the meditation itself. Of course, there are other things that you could do in daily life and being compassionate, but it's all based on your understanding that comes out of your meditation. Because you can only relate to other people genuinely, truly, if you have seen your own mind at work thoroughly. Then you can see, wow, we all go through this. We all have busy minds. We're all in the future and past constantly. We're all having tension in our bodies. And now I've experienced how nice it is to be free from that. I wish all of you to be free from that. That will be the result of practice. As you practice, as your practice grows, you see how relaxed and how much at ease you could be. You wish that upon other people. Naturally. Not because it's some kind of pretentious form of, I'm the big compassionate one that wishes all living beings to be happy and free from suffering and all that. It's a living, breathing experience of understanding suffering within yourself. The very basic human suffering that we all deal with on a consistent basis. That's the base of the practice. Getting out of that is the point. The end of suffering. AKA happiness. These are synonyms. However you want to spell it, I don't know. Okay? Alright guys, then. Are there any questions?